What's up, y'all? It's the Desperado representing the Jabberjaws today. Coming in here with a game review for some DLC. Maybe you played it, maybe you haven't, but you should definitely check out the Lost Judgment video game, sequel to Judgment, coming from the world of Yakuza. Now, maybe you're not familiar with the Yakuza series, but essentially, Yakuza, if you don't know what it is, it's Japanese mafia. And this game series, the main series, Yakuza, had 6 games by the way, was about Kazuma Kiryu. And he was an ex-Yakuza member, thrown into jails for a crime he didn't commit. Comes out of jail, meets up with a little girl who's like the daughter of his childhood friend slash first love. Missing Yakuza money, gotta solve it, gotta protect the little girl. Pretty sick shit, honestly. It was a really, really good game, really good story. Open world, third person, beat 'em up, lots of side missions, lots of funny gags. It's literally how I describe these games in the series. It's like playing an anime. All the side missions is almost like filler arcs, and you got a really gripping main story where people are just banging, knocking each other out, fist to fist, real man shit. Now, the spin-off series, Judgment and Lost Judgment, takes place on the other side of the law. Instead of Yakuza, you're detectives this time. Instead of Kiryu, you're taking over as Yagami, the founder, lead detective of Yagami's detective agency. Him, along with his boy Kaito, go around the cities, doing different kinds of various missions, for some extra skrill to, help out justice and all that stuff. Yagami himself used to be a lawyer, and basically after a botched case where he let a killer go, he decided to take crime to the streets and really do the justice that he couldn't do as a lawyer. Overall, both games are pretty fun. They kind of do capture that magic of Yakuza, the whole open world, run around, beat 'em up vibe. Main difference being is it is on the side of justice. So some of the more etchy parts of Yakuza, the little maid cafes or cabaret bars and all that shit is kind of gone. You have a little bit more wholesome side mission dates with girls and stuff, and not some of the pornographic ones that you do have in Yakuza, which is fucking hilarious. They actually had legit Japanese porn stars in these games. But still, nonetheless, it's pretty fun. Two sides of the same coin. You got the light and you got the dark, but really both characters are fighting for justice. So in this new DLC, it's called the Kaito Files, where you get to actually see or use rather Kaito, Yagami's like best friend and partner in this. Kaito himself used to be Yakuza, kind of like Kiryu. He's, a brawler, an ex, like I said, he's ex-Yakuza, and he's, now trying to do the right thing, kind of go clean, because if you follow all 6 of these games, it's very close in line with like a lot of Japanese current history. The Yakuza used to be quite a powerful force, and if you look at more recent news and videos kind of talking about it, they're not as powerful of a force in the Japanese mainstream as they used to be, at least from what I hear. I could be wrong on that, don't quote me. But nonetheless, the game kind of follows that suit. The Yakuza, at least the Tojo clan in Kamurocho, is basically no more. Law and order kind of reigns, but underground gangs still try to do their thing and take advantage of the wicked or the weak and the poor. Kaito, again, former Yakuza, now a detective. He gets to shine in the Kaito Files. This time around, Kaito is flying solo dolo. He gets to carry on a mission by himself. Yagami's nowhere in the game, at least from where I'm at right now. He's doing his thing, but game kind of starts off. Kaito's out there just trying to get a drink with the boys, and nobody can get around. And eventually, he gets led to a case that was, coming his way, where he meets up with this kid. And not really much of a spoiler. I mean, you can read this, and they'll literally tell you this in the synopsis for the DLC. But basically, you got this kid who's claiming to be Kaito's son, and from a former ex who's now gone missing and presumed dead. So Kaito's going around with this little boy, trying to find the missing mother, and the husband of the missing woman as well finds Kaito, saying, "Hey, I need your help finding this woman," basically hires him for his services. And after some reluctancy, Kaito eventually accepts the mission to go out and find his ex. Now, the game in and of itself, I mean, it's not much different in gameplay or anything like that outside of the fighting style. So, if you've actually played the Yakuza series with Kiryu before, you'll find that Kaito has a very reminiscent style of Kiryu when it comes to fighting. He's just a straight up brawler, powerful as they come, throughout this entire game. Many people talk about how, like, oh, Kaito, man, your strength, it's legendary, like he's a banger. He can knock him out with the best of them, and that's what's actually I found kind of cool about it is that reminiscent style of former Yakuza and that reminiscent style of Kiryu, and I think that's something that will longtime fans of the series will actually kind of like really appreciate is like like he's kind of like Kiryu in a way. Some other cool things too that is similar to Kiryu was the relationship between Kaito's supposed son, kind of harkening back to the first game where Kiryu meets up with the child of a former lover and goes around trying to find and help this little girl and trying to find her mother, solving a mystery. It's very much similar like that. Kaito's got this teenage boy, except like in Yakuza, the little girl was 6. I don't know how old Haruko was, but she was young. But Kaito's got this 14-year-old kid who's bit of a smart ass walking around in his fucking Timbs with his red hair, always picking fights, and usually for justice, trying to do the right things, but he's kind of a little bit of a bitch. Can't handle when the bad guys pull out a knife. It's kind of funny, little feints all the time. But regardless, it's very much like the old school Yakuza. You have a former Yakuza helping out a missing kid trying to find somebody from his past. And I actually kind of like that. Some might find that, a repeating of a story, but I actually kind of like the mirror image of it, how it reflects the first game in the series, how it kind of mirrors that, and almost like a new upbringing, a new version of it. You got the old grizzled ex yakuza meeting up with a young person that's claiming to be tied to their past, their mysterious past, and I think that's something cool. But it's like a story archetype that many people have kind of seen before, but I think if done well, which this game does, it can be very very fun, very likable, where you see this older guy walking around, this fucking teenager who's just kind of a dumbass, and he's just like, fuck, got me in this weird situation. So it's kind of fun watching Kaito react with the boy who it really looks up to Kaito, who really wants to be just like Kaito, in a different way. Whereas like with Kiryu and Haruko, who was like 6 again, she's more looking to him like a father figure, kind of, and admittedly, so does this boy. Like they both, Haruka and June, that's the name of the kid, both look at their protectors as father figures, someone to look to. But whereas Haruka is like, okay, I need you to protect me. I'm a child. June's a little boy, so he's trying to get himself into a bunch of shit that he shouldn't. So it's kind of fun and different at the same time, just based off of the gender dynamics, truly and honestly, and the era too. In QDU's world, it was straight Yakuza bullshit all the time. So it's a lot more dangerous, if you will, and not to say it's any less dangerous in Kaido's world, but it does kind of give like a different vibe to the story. And one of the best things about this game and one of the best things about the story is that it really does let you see Kaido more than the kind of bumbling brute that he is when he's paired up with Yagami. Yagami, in his ways, is almost Mr. Perfect. That man can skateboard, he's the ultimate detective, he's a lawyer, master of like 4 different martial arts styles. Like, he can almost damn near do no wrong. Whereas Kaido in both games sometimes has this, he pales in comparison, not in like a bad way, but he definitely has like the, oh, I'm the strong lummox motherfucker, of the squad of the two. And I think here you get to really see him like, yo, this man is also a detective. He's no slouch. I mean, yeah, of course he can fight and stuff like that. And, she got to be able to fight in Kamurocho, to be perfectly honest. But you get to see off his detective skills in ways that Yagami doesn't have. And they almost honestly kind of harken back to Kiryu in a way. They kind of his detective skills, whereas Yagami's is more technological, almost like Batman. I'm using gadgets. I'm trying to figure things out that way. Kaito is primal, and I think they actually that's what they call it in the game. Is like primal senses. So when he's out there doing his detective things, he has a couple other different features. Like they both like Yagami and him both use sight, obviously, but Kaito's detective nature comes from his sense of smell and sound. So many times when you're in detective mode for him, you're using your six senses, really three, but you're using your senses to figure out the what's going on, the clues. You're smelling things, you're like hearing things, you're like listening to what people are saying. Like it's a very interesting kind of way. And like I said, it reminds me of Kiryu because Kiryu, is kind of natural in that way too. He uses his six senses. He trusts his gut. He goes forward based off of what's in his heart and his mind. And Kaido has a very similar way about that. And I think that's kind of cool, because obviously, you can't, it shows his uniqueness of character. This downloadable content could have easily just been Kaido with the same gears and gadgets of Yagami, but they decided to actually change it up and expand it by showing like, hey, this is a different person. And you definitely really get that feeling when you're fighting with Kaido. It's very similar to Kiryu. He's got a move set that in some ways does harken back to Kiryu, where he like picks up the scooter and beats the shit out of people. He's very much a brawler, throwing everything at you. The kitchen sink, you know what it is. Very much old school Yakuza style, whereas Yagami is the martial artist. But with Kaido, it's brute style, and I think that's kind of sick because it does harken back to the Yakuza roots. It does harken back to Kiryu. And honestly, if it was up to me, I'd be like, hey man, give Kaido his own game. After playing this, I was like, I kind of like the story of Kaido. Nothing wrong with Yagami and stuff, and hey, that's its own cool spin-off. But hell, I mean, I kind of enjoyed playing as Kaido. I think Kaido is I don't want to say cooler character, that discredits Yagami, but similar to Kiryu, it's like, hey man, you got this guy who's got this long history of being a Yakuza. Now he's on the right side of the law. There's a lot of story to be told there. So I think that's kind of one of the cooler aspects of this game is getting to see Kaido in, I don't want to say, well, yeah, he's a natural element, but actually getting to see him to the full extent of his abilities, getting to see who he really is and how he solves a case, how he protects people. If I had any complaints about the game, it'd be kind of the same complaint I had with the most recent Lost Judgment, is that there's just a lot of dialogue. At one point, you're kind of just sitting here like, I haven't touched this controller in what felt like 20, 30 minutes. And I think that's kind of a drawback of most detective games. And to be honest, I'd probably say a lot of games just in general is there's a lot of times where you're just like not doing anything. You're just listening and watching, which would make a good case for a lot of video games nowadays being movies or TV shows, in my opinion. That being said, there's not a lot of side missions. I mean, the game in and of itself is a side mission, so that kind of makes sense. I think it would have been cool to have like some little side missions in between where Kato can go and do some other things, but that'd probably make this more of a full game than actual downloadable content. Um, Overall, though, it's definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of the series, a fan of these types of games. You can't go wrong with it. I mean, I don't remember how much it cost because mine came free. I had just got the deluxe version of Lost Judgment because I could. So, if you don't mind putting out a few shekels, might as well go get it. I think you'll enjoy it. Anywho, thanks for sticking around for this game review. Try to do some more of these. Maybe some of the other Jabba Jaws will. But please do like and subscribe. Really trying to grow here. Would appreciate it, y'all. So once again, Vulgar Desperado representing the Jabber Jaws. Peace.